Welcome to MySQL. This is Lesson 6, and we will be covering how to install the WAMP server, which also includes Apache and PHP plugins for the MySQL PDO. We're going to start out by looking at the WAMPServer website, and this is the web address, www.wampserver.com/en for English. This is a nice little server that can allow you to set up local host on your machine in order to test PHP. Scroll down and you'll see on the WAMPServer website that there are 64-bit versions and also 32-bit versions. So be sure and check which version of Windows you have and pick that one for installation. Click it, and then it's going to also check and make sure that you have the Visual C++ 2010 SP1 package. This is necessary for this server to function correctly. So be sure and click on those links and check on that. Now to go into an actual download site, SourceForge is what it's using here. And I'm going to just pick it and save it and let it download. That's going to take about a minute. After it's downloaded, I'm going to run it. Here is the installation window, and it has installed several items: Apache, MySQL, PHP, PHPMyAdmin, SQL Buddy, and a thing called Xdebug, which is actually a debugger for the product. It's going to go to the WAMP folder in your C drive automatically. I just suggest keeping that. And then you can set up a quick launch icon, which makes it easier to start it up without going to your start menu. We let it go right ahead through and extract the files. It's also going to ask you which browser you prefer: Explorer, Chrome, Mozilla, Firefox, any of those. You'll select that and move on. After a few seconds, it will continue installing, and it's going to ask you about which SMTP server you want. Let's use the local host, which is what we're going to need for this particular product. I didn't change anything here and just went to the next screen and finished it up and let it launch. Next, we're going to take a look at the information that comes up when it launches. There'll be a little W icon at the bottom, and here you can see all of the menu items that you can select. These are all of the settings for the different products that were installed, and you can check the versions, make sure they're correct. And it actually, once you've already got MySQL, it uses the one that you had already installed. Now this is a website I went to that shows you how to view PHP on localhost. It's a how-to site on the eHow. I just typed that keyword in to find this information, and that's how I found that the WAMP server was a nice selection. Now if you do have something other than Windows, you may choose a different server for local host, or if your computer already handles localhost, that's fine too. I'm going to find the www folder in the WAMP folder, and then I'm going to copy some of the textbook PHP files that are under the PHP API. The USHL is the one that is used as an example in your textbook. I'm going to copy the entire folder and place that in the WAMP www file folder. You will need to do this in order to allow the WAMP server to access the files that you're going to use in these examples. It automatically goes to that www folder. In fact, when you go to the bottom and open up the WAMPServer website link again, you can see that the www is listed so that you can actually open it right from there. Okay, so now we've copied everything over. We're actually following the directions from this website. We've already got our WAMP server started, and it looks like it's working okay on the taskbar. When I typed http://localhost/ in my internet browser, I found an error. And it turns out that WAMPServer is not able to handle the IPv6 new address format. So there is a forum out there that tells us how to modify a couple of things to correct this, and this is what I did. In fact, pretty much followed the instructions directly from the forum. The first thing they suggest is to copy the entire C:\WAMP folder to a backup area so that when if you have any problems, you can just replace it. And the next thing I did is I went out to the actual WAMP server and used its editor to edit one of the files. That would be the httpd.conf file. You can do that by going to the Apache folder, and there it is. And it opens up its own little editor, which I use to do the modifications. And here's the editing that I had to do. It shows you exactly what to change. What you'll do is you'll go down and find the listen command. And you're going to change the listen 80 to listen 0.0.0.0:80. And you can use the # to comment out the original. So I copied that one down and actually typed in some comments to show myself what I did to modify this. I highly recommend doing it this way because then you can just change it back if you need to. Before you make this a permanent change, be sure and go back and check the forum or check this video and make sure that listen command matches exactly. It has to be exactly the same. When you save it, do not use save as. Use the save command instead and put it right back where it was. Otherwise, it might modify in the notepad the extension to txt, and you do not want that. The next file that needed to be modified is actually a Windows file, and you can always change this back after you've finished using this course. All it's going to do is disable the IPv6 type of address, which is a special address that is used in very few websites at this time. Fortunately, the WAMP server product will eventually support this and you won't have to make this change, but temporarily this is just something that will help you get your local host to work with this particular product. Be sure and locate that Windows file, which is under System32 directory, and then it's under the drivers directory and the etc directory. It's called hosts, HOSTS. Before you make modification to the hosts file, be sure and make a copy of it. I did so and named it -IPv6 disable, and that way I was able to keep a copy of it. Now this is what the original looks like. You can see these first two lines here that say localhost are the ones I'm going to comment out. So I'm going to go back to the file I've already pre-set up for you, and I'm going to rename the original hosts file to hosts-save. That way it's not modified at all, and I can just rename it back when I need to change this back. And then I'll go to the one that I did modify, change its name to hosts, and I'm going to show you the modifications. Basically, I just commented out those two lines with a #. Okay, so now the only line you can see that says localhost is 127.0.0.1. Now be sure and save this file. Do not use save as, because if you're using Notepad, it will try to save it as a text file. You don't want that. Now, in the directions, it also tells you to reboot after you've made this change so that it will use that new hosts file. So be sure and reboot your machine before you continue. And next, I'm going to go back in and open up the WAMP server after I've rebooted my machine. It started up. And now let's try opening localhost. If localhost is working on your computer, this is what you will see. The server configuration information, and down below you can scroll down and see your projects. If you double click on USHL, it is going to open up that folder, and the first thing it opens in that folder is your index.php file. So by double clicking it, it runs the index.php file. and there's the message. However, no count is showing. So it looks like I'm going to have to do something to make that work correctly. And what I found out is that at this point, this PHP file does not have my user ID and password. I'm going to go and open it under that www/ushl folder, the actual index file, and I will open it with Notepad or WordPad. Actually, WordPad I found worked a little bit better for me because it doesn't try to save it as a text file. You would want to change SAMPDADM to your username and the word secret to your password. So just find those down in that PHP file and be sure and modify that. This is a temporary thing. Normally you'll use something else to actually get your password and username, but we're going to do it just for this example. Again, do not use Save As. Save it right there. Do the back button in your browser, double-click USHL again, and there it is. The league currently has 102 members. That means it's working fine. So now I've installed all of the files necessary and the programs necessary for PHP to function. I hope this has been beneficial for you, and have a great day.